Hello everyone, this is the second day of LINOLEUM Festival 2022, so I'm so happy that we are together again, and we will conduct this, not a lecture, but a conversation with our today's guest, a wonderful Halyna Sasyn, who is a psychologist, the co-founder and business trainer of D-Space, and the lecturer at Krok University Business School. I would like to say instantly that our program is in partnership with a library of Projector, so in Projector you can watch all of our meetings and all of our lectures when it is convenient for you and when it is safe for you. I'd like to remind you that the lecture is taking place within the project of LINOLEUM and the British magazine, Skwigly animation magazine. The name is I'm Fine, and the same is the name of the lecture today. It is done by the British Council within the season of British culture in Ukraine. We decided to create these lectures because the profession itself, any profession, especially a creative profession, is capable to lead us to some burnout, to some huge tension, and we don't know what to do with that. Even when you want to say, help me please, something is wrong with me, answering the question, what's with you, you say, I'm fine, though you don't look good, but you say that everything is okay. So we decided to create those lectures to speak about such questions as what you should do with yourself when you have a single effort, no inspiration, you don't know what to do with yourself, you don't know how to deal with your emotions, it is so hard for you to get back to consciousness and in fact to substantiate on support to something, especially since the 24th of February we were attacked by Russia. Because with the little letter R with two Z's. So now I give the floor to Halyna. Halyna, hello, do you hear me? Yes, I hear you and I'm so happy to hear you. Yes, I'd like to wave a hand to you as well. And I'd like to wave to our viewers. I don't know how many of them, but still, I would like to welcome all of you. And I think that inside I'm celebrating that the part of the people who are with us, that they are decided to spend some time to contemplate onto some of the important points. You wrote that in Facebook. What can we do? So I think it's so valuable that we are all together in this moment. Yes, thank you so much that you're with us. This is the very unusual conversation. We are not creating the conversation, the presentation, so I have some interesting tricks here, so I'd like to entertain you, or maybe to add anything, or maybe to adjust this conversation. What about the work during the war? Whether it is possible at all, and maybe it's possible, but it's very hard. So you need to create some of the internal supports for the efficient action for the work. So today we will be speaking how you can do that when you're totally not okay. What do you do when you're not okay, and how do you make yourself okay? Yes, those are the questions which each of us is trying to find answers every day. I do the same every day. I'm trying to find those answers. Let us all search for them together. I was joking in the beginning that we don't have a presentation. I have two ideas why we don't have the presentation. First of all, because we are working with animators and presentations which they know something about aesthetics, but I'm not the expert in that, so I wouldn't like you to feel pain because of those horrible pictures which my fantasy could have. And the second idea why we don't have the presentation, just because during the time of the war we had lots of conversations with the teams, with different people in webinars and lectures, and I was sure that, as they say, at the battlefield, there is no place for philosophical works. So sometimes we don't care about lectures during the war, but we really need a kind-hearted and attentive conversation. Of course, I have a plan. You can see I have the list of the prompts, not to forget about some of the points which we decided to discuss today, where we can find those internal supports, how we can behave with our worries, with our emotions, our ideas and thoughts, which can ruin us which can make us slow down, and what we will speak about those important points. But in the same way, I'd like us to be the interlocutors. So I really invite you to write your questions and comments in the chat. So we decided that Sasha will read them out loud. So she has the full freedom to interrupt me any moment and to clarify, to pose your questions. The most valuable thing which we can give to each other is our attention and the time for each other, to think together, for our thoughts to be a bit longer on that, for them not to be that short as we usually have. How are you? I'm fine, and that's it. Running away from each other. There is so much in the background, so I invite you for the today's conversation. Yes, perfect. Just today when I'm saying that when we met each other before, when we had lots of incredible affairs and we understood that we are so over important and all of our business affairs are so important. How are you? I'm okay. That was too quick. So now I'd like to say that we got in a very bad situation. We were so sped up that we stopped feeling ourselves, our own body, our own thoughts, where you're going to and what you need, when you are so busy, but still you feel some emptiness, as if you're not doing anything. And now, adding to that, we have the war. And everything used to be okay. Everything was so cool. You had so many important things, but now everything has totally changed. It used to be so hard, and now it is even harder. So what do you do with yourself when you have those supports? For instance, you needed to do that. You needed to the fuel station, you needed to look at your oil, you needed to add up some fuel. You were always delaying that, but now we shouldn't betray ourselves and pretend that everything is okay. Yes, I totally agree with you, Sasha, and we definitely know at the psychological sphere, in the psychological language, we feel this continuity of the life narrative. For us to have some life story which we used to live, and now this story is suspended by war. It cuts the line of our life, and each of us has this cut a lifeline in this or that part, to this or that extent. Our task is to restore this lifeline. And I always say that Russia is committing the crime against life. We don't have the right to support it in it. We need to save our lives. We need to live holistically and with our values, because this is the phenomenon which we can observe, the delayed, the postponed life. When the victory takes place, then we will leave. But the life is ongoing now, and I cannot afford myself not to leave now, because every moment of this life is so valuable. Then we say that it is so important, as you say, to slow down. And I'd like to have this moment of slowing down today. So I invite you, if you've got any notes, any sheet of paper, when you can draw something or write down something, not what I'm saying or Sasha is saying, but any ideas of yours when we are speaking about you. This could be a very nice emotional, not a banner, which you are creating for us, because we sometimes are short of time to stop and to think about ourselves. Cool. And what I'd like to add, if you have some time, if you have those notes, rather often when I'm conversing, I'm just automatically drawing. It's a cool thing, and lots of psychologists are saying, could you show what you are drawing and why you are drawing that? That's rather interesting as well, to assess the personality and the state of personality. So when you're drawing something, just send us those drawings to the chat. Let us share them. We are very free today, so we can support each other, and we will not judge you. We could say, at school, this is something I've decided to draw. Let it be, it will be the today's symbol within our lectures of why I'm fine. If it is saying I'm fine, why not? That's super, then we achieved our goal. So, you said a very cool thing about the values. How do we define those values when we have this cutout of this lifeline, this wire? Yes, Sasha. when we say that where we can find some of the internal supports, I will remind you the word which I'm sure you heard about, that is the resilience. That it is so important to study, to be resilient, to in the times we are living now at. We need to study how to do that. So, you know, the evil which we are facing has become this a nice push for us into the earth that we need to study that. You know, for our psychological and mental health, unfortunately, we're not paying enough of attention to it. So when we are asking, where are those muscles of resilience? When we say about muscles, we need to train them. So the first word is the word values. Very often we hear it and it may seem a bit incomprehensible or artificial, but I'd like us to understand what we consider to be the most important component of our resilience. If we look at our life as a way, we say that it's so important for us to get step by step some actions along the life which we have in our list, but it's so important to understand where are we moving to, where are we living our life to, and when we are asking ourselves what the values are, it's some hole in the sky, it's some star in the sky which showed the salesman what it is, where to go to. So when the person has a good connection with the values, that the person hears them, I think that each of you has such an experience. When you hear some music, your body begins to dance. This is a kind of your music which resonates in your body, and you begin to push and you're moving with your shoulders. So our body is resonating listening to those sounds, and our values has the same story. When we have the connection with our values, we hear them in ourselves, then we begin to move, and then we have this energy emerging that we can see as a wise action to create those wise steps. Because when we don't hear this music, we're a bit out of tact. So we need to have good connection to hear our music, to know which music is important here. Then we know how can we find connection with our values, how we can define them. We say that it's so important, especially now, to honestly respond to the question, what person I'd like to become. It's not just what I'd like to have, victory in the festival or anything like that. Oscars. Everybody wants to get an Oscar award. So what kind of person I'd like to be, which person I'd like to be through those tests, what person I'm choosing to be. Because I cannot choose the context I'm in. I cannot choose lots of things, especially now. If I could choose not to live during the war, I'd definitely do that, but I cannot. I cannot do that, so the only thing I can choose is how I can overcome those tests, what kind of person I'd like to be. And then we say that we have different spheres of our life, and we're looking into those spheres of our life, and we're posing the question for ourselves, what the person I'd like to be. As a member of some team, in the team we're creating a kind of a project, so what I'd like to invest in this team, which member of the team I'd like to be. They try to prompt me, and I'd like to pretend that I'm not distracted, but please wink if everything is okay. Yes, they say everything is okay. I do apologize for the break. So if there is the colleague, some of the colleagues, which type of person I'd like to be in the team. If there is a chief or a boss, a superior, what I'd like to have in these relations in the team. If I'm a mother, what I'd like my children to be taught from me, what I'd like example for them to see from me. If we have someone else in his or her role, what type of person I'd like to be in this place. That is so cool. I would like to say, we'd like to combine our sphere, the professional sphere of our activity, and creativity and animation, about the creation of content and script writing. There is film direction, so there is the film creation and the process. When, for instance, it doesn't matter how, but I need to get this Oscars award. As an example, I'd like to get an Oscar, so doesn't matter how. If even everybody is axed, I will still break this rock until I get what I want. in any way possible. So everybody is getting under this axe. My relatives, my birthdays, my children. I cut out everyone because I'd like to get an Oscar. But there are some people, as you're saying, which are asking what I'm a person, as a person, when I achieve that Oscars. What's the way I'm choosing to achieve? Is it okay to choose this way? I'm in consent with myself. Or maybe I'm just cutting and axing everything I can see. So it seems to me we have both strategies. Every person can have some time when you need to achieve it in any available price. If you are speaking about survival, then of course, anyway, any means are possible, but still, you need to think about the process. You shouldn't forget about the process. It seems to me that there is lots of anxiety, lots of losses when you are forgetting what the process should be. It also should be with fun. You should enjoy it. Yes, I'd like to add an important thing to what you're saying, that you should highlight in this important message you're saying about I am the practicing psychologist. I'm working with the people, so I can see that sometimes the people are coming who are getting their award, their Oscars, and they say, I have an Oscar award, or whatever I can get, and whatever is additional to that Oscars, but I'm not feeling happy. I'm not feeling that I'm living my life. So rather often we say that this is an existential crisis. I had such a long way to these Oscar awards that I was lost in this way. I have the Oscar award, but I'm not happy. I have an idea, maybe it's a bit of highbrow, but I do apologize. I'm a psychologist, I'm taking care about people. So this is my story, that sometimes I'm just for people a bit more than the people are for themselves. But still, I'm saying that we need to be happy during our life. When I know that I have the Oscar award, but when I got it with the price that I lost my connection with the values, I won't be happy. So I urge to you, especially during these times, to have a nice support and understanding of the connection with your values. It would be a wonderful support. And there is one more important message. Besides having the understanding, sitting and contemplating, registering and documenting those things, our values sometimes, as I said, you have 15 minutes and write down your values. Many of the people would say, what? What is that? We need to find them. We need to look into ourselves and to look at the people who are inspiring us. We need to watch movies which are inspiring us or the words which are resonating. We need to remember the moment when sometimes we're living during this life, in which way, what kind of person I used to be during those moments, and then we're adding some volume. And an important aspect, when we understand what our values are and how I'd like to live my life, it's important for us to remind ourselves about them. Because sometimes the life is just adding some external circumstances and some other stories, so we may, in fact, don't see them that precisely. So then we need to invent some system of activation of values. In our language, psychotherapeutic language, it's activation of values. We need to turn on the music onto our internal stereo, and then we are moving along to it. We don't have sometimes depression, we are exhausted or we are overtired, so then we don't want to move, and then we have those thoughts coming to our mind, and I think every person heard those thoughts. Why? What's the sense? Why? What's the point? Yes, many people say, what's the point? Yes, we have the need of this sense. When we can see the sense, we can see the value, and we are ready to approach to these values. We don't see the values, but we have some sense to conduct a LINOLEUM festival or something like that. We are given energy for this sense. We are not given the energy for finding what the sense is. We are saying that the values are about the sense. When we see the sense, we need to remind ourselves about the sense. And we need to think that there is some way to remind ourselves about that. We can remind that for our team, if we're working in the team for the project and something went wrong, some routines, some processes, and we are a bit weird, then we need to remind ourselves, wait, why we are doing that? For the sake of what? We are not sleeping in this mode of ASAP, but then we will be celebrating our victory and we'll have a good sleep after our project. But now we need to remind ourselves what's the sense we're sharing and acknowledging. Yes, we need to name it. We need to give it a name. Whether this sense exists, yet it exists. We need to verbalize it, because sometimes there is a huge risk of the trap that everybody knows it, everybody understands it, but we need to verbalize it in the words. We need to register it, to document it with our right part of our brain, to speak with some means, as we were speaking yesterday. We need to remind ourselves. I will name an example from my practice. How do I activate values? And my clients are ridiculing that, because the psychologist has some weaknesses as well, and it sort of normalizes my problems. Since the beginning of the war, my activation of values, every day I have something blue and yellow. I have a ring which is blue and yellow today. When I can see something blue and yellow, it activates why I, Halyna, have those consultations and groups, why I need to do something beautiful, something which I used to do before, so it gives me strength. Sometimes it's even ridiculous. I go to the gym and we are coming to the important thing that you need to go in for sports. So when I have the gray attire, I'm a bit weak. But when I'm in the blue and yellow t-shirt, then I can have 4 sets of exercises, because this is the sense which makes me stronger. I can see a huge sense in that. That adds some new stories which we are recording for ourselves. This is the key message. To know a sense, your own sense, why I'm doing this project, why am I in this team, why I'm involved in this process, what's my place in this line, in this group, what's the sense for the events which are taking place now. And you know, I'm the creator of those senses. Because during the war, we are fighting for the world which shouldn't have this evil which Russia brought to us. Because this evil will be unthinkable and we have to overcome it. Yes, this evil shouldn't just exist. So we need to create the world which will never have it, because this world won't allow it to exist. Then we activate it and we have wonderful works, and it's also about the activation of values. It looks like what you are doing with those wonderful video works, you're activating those values, you're showing those senses. Here is the button where you turn on our music. Okay, this was the first message about senses. Okay, perfect. So if there are any questions, dear viewers, please write down the senses which you have. Maybe you got them, maybe you discovered some of the senses which you never seen before during the year or any other period of time of your life, but now you can hear and feel this sense within in yourself, because really it seems to me that lots of creative people, and I'm as a creative animal, I may say that lots of creative people think that it's so simple, but it's a very complicated thing. Just to sit down and to write down the sense, it's not working like that. It is working. This is the thing. You don't need to haste. And in 15 minutes, as Halyna mentioned above, to write down 40 points of senses. No, this is the thing. Maybe your senses as of today, like the motivating cards. Every day you take some card and you're looking at the hedgehog and maybe something else. Maybe the sense of this day is a wonderful coffee boiled in a small coffee shop which is working in spite of anything, for instance. Or the colors, like for Halyna. like blue and yellow, which I have it here, and it is so pleasant for me, it's warm for me. So maybe you like some t-shirt, which the small Ukrainian production is manufacturing. You acquire it, you wear it, and it is cool for you. You can find some senses in it. Or maybe you subscribed for Instagram for the dog patron, and you are going there and reading the messages about this wonderful dog, and you are feeling good of that. So this is also the sense to see something little, something kind-hearted, what saves the world, what makes it white and fluffy, what makes it lighter and brighter, that is also so important. So at the first sight, it seems simple, but in fact, to look deep inside and to see and to hear, to verbalize those senses, to name those senses is really hard. And it is so important, you know. Jung and Frankl and many other people said that if the person understands why he or she can stand it, that's so important. This is our response for the answer why, and we need to remind ourselves this response. So a very nice thing is to share, because resilience can be individual, but in the same way, this is the resilience of the community, of the team. And when we are filling each other with these senses, with our activators, we are becoming stronger and more powerful. I always say that we are now living through very hard times, and each of us can get to this or that complicated emotion and to be into this or that hard state. Then it's so important for our eyes to meet the eyes of the person who during the same moment has the higher resource, who is more resilient. And maybe you can rely upon this person. You can stand at this person about this light which warms you up, which makes your accumulator better. Then you are getting warmer, and then you'll get back to the purpose state. Then the person will be able to rely upon you. So this is a very important point which I recorded into this phone of mine, that we can in fact curse this darkness and the times of darkness, but we can try and create a candle. We can try to light a candle and share it for each other. The important senses, how you turn them on. You know what else I know? There is such a point that lots of people are shy to say that I'm not okay now. This is our block. Because we are so patient, we say, I'm fine, when we are totally not fine. We say that we are okay when we are totally not okay. Are there any simple methodologies, or maybe even complicated methodologies, to help yourself with that? And to say that now I'm feeling I'm not okay. Somehow I say I am okay, but I need someone help me. How can I leave this state? I don't know. Of a strong cock-a-doodle-doo from Borodyanka. It is so cool, because we are all this little statue from Borodyanka, but you need to say, to utter when you need help. How do we do that? Well, I do urge everybody, I have an idea that the world is relying upon two things: good relations with yourself, the honesty with yourselves, and the good relations with other people and the honesty with other people. First of all, we need to afford ourselves to be not okay, to be not fine, and to confess ourselves that we are not okay. Sometimes it happens that our society, because I have lots of people who are coming to me and saying, Halyna, I'm looking through Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, whatever people are watching for other people, and they're so successful and strong, they're holding up, and then it seems to me that I'm a kind of abnormal, or I'm weak if I'm falling out. And then we have to point an important issue, that resilience is not about me being strong always, that I am such muscled, strong man. Realistically, it's not working like that. And Sometimes when during the lectures I say that I'm really not okay, I'm just depressed and in despair, and people say, the psychologists feel that as well, we normalize it. It's okay that the resilience is not just not to fall down and not to be broken. The resilience is for us to see ourselves honestly, that we can break down, but still we'd like to grow in the place where we were broke. But in the place where we are broken, we can become stronger. Now, we said that we have to be honest with ourselves, and there is such a point which has the name of basic emotional needs. We all have basic emotional needs, and the best basic, the most emotional need, which we are born with, is the sensitive care. We say care, and sometimes how the care looks like. When the baby is shouting that it doesn't want to eat, but it has to eat according to the schedule, so we feed the child. It's a kind of the care, but it's not sensitive. So we are getting to know how to take care about ourselves, but not sensitively. We sometimes need support and vulnerability, but I pretend to be so strong. But in fact, if I were sensitive for myself, I would say, my dear or mom or my colleague or even my superior, that just now I just need you to be just listening to me, how hard it is for me. Because when we say what it's important to know about our emotions, emotions are like the indicators of our state, that what's important, which is taking place about ourselves. Like there is the panel in the car that you have not enough of fuel, you need to add some oil. The same happens with our emotions. When I'm in despair, when I'm in anger, when I'm sad or offended, when I'm trying to close my eyes onto that and to demonstrate that I can go through 100 more miles, and I'm doing that, we know what happens with the car. If we can see those signals that we need more fuel, but we're just ignoring it, we say, what kind of fuel? I will have 100 more meters or kilometers, but the car won't go. But we make ourselves go. So what I'm meaning, we need to be attentive towards ourselves. We need to pay attention to those signals, because my emotions, my state witnesses what I need now. And secondly, it's important for us to be sensitive to ourselves, caring to ourselves, to give ourselves what we need, to ask what we need with the people who are in my circle, in the circle of trust, whom I trust. We need to ask what we need. It won't mean that I'm weak. It will mean that I'm attentive. And secondly, it will mean that we are legalizing for other people the right to do the same. Sometimes it's scared to share your vulnerabilities, whether I'm loved if I'm imperfect, whether I'm loved if I am vulnerable. But another person close to me, maybe my partner, maybe my colleague at work, or maybe my superior, if he or she sees that I'm giving myself the right for this vulnerability, and I give you the right to be my support in this vulnerability, then you also have such a right. And then we are becoming supporting each other in that. We can be the support for each other, but we can also be the people who are taking away the resource. Because when I need to pretend that I'm okay when it's not okay, then I'm spending the remnants of my resource, and we need huge resource broadcast for what I really don't feel. I remembered such a thing when lots of people are saying, yes, less emotionality, you're too emotional. So the person is just canceling your feelings. And when you're saying, I'm not fine, it's bad, I'm scared, or I can see that something is wrong, and I'm worried, I'm excited, I'm scared, and don't like something, well, as for the combat warfare, of course, we are all intimidated and something is worrying us on a permanent basis. But when you are in the creative profession, and in any profession, in fact, I really think that there are no non-creative professions, because when you are an accountant, you still need to be creative, you need to love it. And it's a very hard story for me, I don't understand it, it's too complicated. But still, when you say that you have some colleagues or some superiors which you can rely upon. When your superior says you, Halyna, so put down your emotions, calm down, that's enough for you. So this is a very bad story, because, well, yes, this is why I took those things, trying to entertain you with this stuff. Because it's for me that I am prohibiting you to feel. You don't have the right for that. And when you don't have the right to feel, when you're too emotional, people say that you are bad. People are almost always they're saying that you are badly responding. You don't have the right to do that. And then the center of the focus of attention is shifted not onto the problem, but onto you, which is too offended or too scared or something like that. It's not nice. As Lina Kostenko said, people, let us be mutually beautiful. And I'd like to add an important point. We are feeling an emotion, and it's really okay. We can feel really different emotions, and it's important for us to share them, because this is how we are recovering with our emotional wounds and relations. Another moment, what's important for us, it's important for us how we act with those emotions, how we reflect them, express them, because definitely we can express them instinctively, automatically, reactively, and sometimes it's not wise. And then the person may not have strength and to contain these emotions. I came to the person who is still having hardly a possibility to hold on, but I came with my sincere emotions to share. So we need to be sensitive how I'm treating my emotions, how I broadcast them, and sometimes we just need to get used that I'm feeling very angry, for instance, when a colleague from a different department or a neighbor from the floor made me angry. So sometimes I just need to shout. Is it okay if I shout close to you? Well, you know, you're speaking about a kind of a clever emotionality. When you're saying, now I feel really bad, I'm really nervous and angry. So when you name those emotions, not just opening the door and shouting out, and that's it. Everybody is cursed, whoever is good or bad. You just came and got the whole bucket of those emotions. So you're just saying how you can treat those emotions, how you can use them, how you can name them. Lots of people don't know how to name your own emotions. How is it named? There is some term in psychology, I forgot it. What's the proper term? But still, when they say, what are you feeling? And you're saying, well, I'm okay. And you don't know how to utter it, or maybe you are irritated, or maybe you are tired, or you're just touched, you don't know. Yes, we need to understand that, because if I don't have in my experience the questions posed how you are feeling, if I have some experience when I was brought up and I was said, don't cry because it's not appropriate, you should act like a girl, so I get to know that I'm feeling something, but when I share it, it is closed, it is prohibited, and then I don't use it. And secondly, when I got a good and wise feedback for my emotions, then I don't know how to act and behave. But we can study, because we are born to grow, and my emotions reflect my state and what's important for me. What's not important for me, it won't resonate emotionally. So I'm not hooked by it. But when I have emotional resonation, then it's important for me. When I can stop and listen to myself, what's happening to me, and I can share it with other people. I remembered a case with my husband when we were climbing a mountain and he was pushing me. It was hot and that was a very badly organized trip. We were out of water. I was almost so angry. I was so hot. So I said, man, do you see that stone? We will be sitting on that rock. or you will be sitting on this rock and I will be shouting, I will be cursing you and with obscene words, and I will be saying that I will die on this rock because of you. But you should remember that this is my amygdala speaking about that. I'm not shouting out to you, but my exhaustion is speaking about that. So while I'm saying that, you should understand that this is the best thing, you are the best thing which happened to me in my life, but still I need to shout. So when we understand that there is some emotions, we need to take care about ourselves. We need some space for that. For us not to get too much of them, to manage them. So because it's so important that I can hear emotions, but I can select whether I can go along your scenario, because my anger would tell me to take a stone and throw the stone, or to beat my husband with a saucepan. This is the classical in fact, scenario, as well as the classical one, I am happy to see you, and then I can have the prompt, go and hug her. But then I'm told, is it okay if I break those borders and I can hug Sasha? Or can say, Sasha, I can feel such happiness, so can I hug you? And then Sasha can tell me, yes, you can hug me. This is the competence and the wisdom of the management of your emotions. We cannot ban our feelings, though sometimes people are coming, take away my anxiety, and I say, God forbid, how can you live without anxiety? We cannot just cut out the part of emotions from ourselves, but we need to listen to them because they are saying something important about ourselves. But then we can say that we're going along this plot, some panic, which makes me breathe deeply and do something stupid according to the scenario of my anger or to the scenario of my joy, which makes me kiss the people and say, wait, I hear you, I understand that it's important for you, but I'd like to treat with it for it to be safe for me and to safe for everybody I'm interacting with. And what's important for me as well to add that it's also important to give feedback to each other. As you told the story about the superior who responded that my colleague or my employee acted like this, and I said, okay, sometimes we don't know how to provide empathical confrontation, that my behavior is confrontational, which is not okay in this project or this interaction, but I'm looking at you as a kind-hearted, wise, nice person, so this way, empathically, I'm not trying to upbring you, but I'm trying to give you the feedback about your behavior and to explain to you, when you act like this, it is impacting me. This is how I'm feeling, or this is how it's impacting our team or our outcome. So I would ask you to take this behavior and to change it a bit, not just because I want it, but because there are some important reasons for that. So I listed my motivation. And here I can say, my dear person, I understand that you're doing that not because this is the function of your behavior. You're doing that not because you are hysterical, but because it was so important for you. You were touched by that, so that is what led you to this behavior. So I'm offering you a different scenario of actions. In this place, in this case, you can tell me, please do it like that, and it would impact our project, our team. So we need to strain ourselves for these steps. To be kind-hearted and empathical, but simultaneously very resilient, and to confront what's not okay for me. Because sometimes we are not behaving well with each other, so we need to stop it, but in the way to take care about relations, if these relations are important for me, and we are in a couple or in a team, in the community, we need to save those relations. Did I explain that? Yes, sure. Because you know what's the point? What's important for me here is that we always say that this is not the play with the 0-0 result. It's like chess game. You are winning only under the condition that I am losing. When we are playing chess, we cannot both win. But these are not our relations. This is our relationship and cooperation. It's not the chess game. This is not just for you to win and for me to lose. This is not the 0-0 result when I have 1 and you have 0. It's not like that. This is the step towards each other gradually. It's not just like for me, I was listening to the lecture, Halyna and Sasha were telling me something and told me that you are too emotional and you are traumatizing me, so close your mouth. No, we are not speaking about that. I can see that you are not feeling well, yet you are too excited, that this situation is making you disbalanced. I do respect your emotions. Let us speak out what exactly. What's the reason? Yes, help me understand. Help me to be close to you wisely. I'm not getting to you back to you with my back, and when we are so trembling because of our emotions, I'd like to face you, and I'd like to ask for your help. You do not hear me, you do not understand me, not like that. Just help me understand. It's a pity that we have such misunderstanding. It's a pity that the conflict emerged at work or anybody at home, anywhere at home. Yes, it's a pity. Because it's not that pleasant, so I'm sorry that there was such a misunderstanding emerging, that this conflict emerged. But this is the nice place where we can find common grounds, where we can put the dots over the I's and also get rid of the tension which was piling up. The thing that we are having misunderstanding now is not pleasant, but I'm happy that here we can face each other. I'm offering that to you because I can see here the value for us, for our relations. And then we are coming back to the values, to the sense. What's the sense in that? Because I'd like in my team, well, sometimes I'm working with the businesses and I can see on the walls of the company there are other values listed, openness, partnership, and other important things. But the people are saying, Halyna, it's not working. We don't have the team. Everybody is for him or herself. So we need to get out all of those things from under the table. And after that, we are speaking about something unpleasant, but we're doing that with an important aim. We'd like to create a team, a family, the friendship, and we'd like to create something additional. That's what I'd like to speak about. We would like this interaction not to have aggressive or passive thing, but this is the kind of the balance. Here I was aggressive and here I was silent, but here in the middle, not to have this seesaw. Sometimes it can be fun, of course, if we are full of character in the relations at work or in personal relations, but we cannot live that long on this seesaw. Well, you know, speaking about the seesaw, I'm instantly reminding myself, who if not us? I will die, but I will do that. And every time you have incredibly important projects, you have a very important project, then a super important project, then extra important project, then you have such a project that is just super important, and every time your projects are so important, and every time this is some awkward scenario. I will die, but I will do that. I just hate this formulation when you need to die. Who if not us? You're out of force, you're out of strength, maybe you should stop and not push this machine without fuel, but you should get to the fuel station and have a nice trip, not have a broken leg but still go on running. But we are saying no, who if not me? So we are just hardly moving. You're coming back home and you have the cat who pooped into your sock, and then you have a sick child, and then you have some problems of your husband, so you're just screaming out. So you say, we have to stand it. We have to be resilient. You know, we can do that. I will never afford myself, you shouldn't go along this way, because nobody knows who is the expert of your life. But I'm always saying, if we are conscious that I am choosing this way, during these last meters without my tires, I need to be conscious about the consequences. That obviously I can do that, and our team can do that, but still, then there is the high risk that there will be a burnout. If we don't cope with the burnout, there will be the high risk of depression, and then our team can fall apart, and we need to be conscious that now, in particular in mental complications, are catching up with the cardiovascular diseases. We know that 30% of the grown-ups will have at least one episode of depression during their lifetime. We know that anxiety disorders are also increasing. So why we need to reach it? Because as a person you can have depression and then you will definitely not do anything. Then all of those important projects and so on will just scatter down. And then we are saying that what's important is to be honest with yourself, with each other, and to be wise. Because our consciousness can be in two states: the acting, thinking state, here and now, and in the state of an observer, which just tells you, wait, whether the actions you are doing are wise and good for me, whether the thoughts which I'm thinking through are good and wise for me, whether the way of movement is good and wise for me, and finally, whether the way I'm choosing really leads me to my values, or it leads to that star, guiding star, or when I was moving through the suburbs, maybe on my way, I met some of the complications and hardships, I made a turn, and then I understood that I'm going just automatically. We need to understand that and to name that. And especially now, when we say that we are constantly exhausted, every day exhausts us, every godly day, even in the background, if we are not looking through the news, it is living in our minds because we are living during the war. It takes away our energy, so we need to be very thorough and very attentive about the managing of our energy. How do we using it wisely? We need to be conscious that if now we do not plan the wise route, that first I need to have the constant sources to refill the resource, I can have it. Maybe you ran the marathon, I was having such attempts, but you're running 3 kilometers and at the 3rd kilometer you will have a stop where you can drink some water, you will get some additional resource. So we need to plan those breaks when we refill our resource. Otherwise, we cannot stand it. We cannot cope with that. As if you're going with the car to the trip, you know that you're looking at the map and you're just looking where you can have the fuel stations. If you don't have fuel, whatever you try, even if you really need it, you can leave the car, you can look at the asphalt and say, please, I really need. So let us go on. But you can't do that without the fuel. You will not get response because you don't have the fuel. Now the question: how can you find this resource within yourself? How can you define where those energy pit stops can be organized? How can you help yourself? For instance, people say, I don't know where I can get energy from. Where can I find it from? Whether there are any ways to restore this energy, to refill it. And secondly, how I can find it when you don't know what is energy for you. I can tell you 3 key points. First, we need to remember, we need to appoint the task that I need to have pit stops. This is my task. Secondly, I need to find my speed, my tempo. Because if I can rush for a kilometer without a stop, you can run for 3 kilometers. And if I run 3 kilometers behind you without refuel, I will die. You need to know yourself and to find your speed. As we already mentioned above, when you're looking at other people and this is enough for him as a distance to have some water, we need to listen to ourselves, to hear ourselves and to find the speed for this way. And the third important thing, what's important for us, is to minimize extra losses of energy. Every single person of us has the holes which are losing our energy through. And we're losing energy, for instance, in the evening when we are going to bed and we are thinking about something. It can lead to our actions when we seem to be relaxing, but we are scrolling and scrolling the feeds and we are not relaxing. Every single person has some holes where the energy leaks, and we should minimize the losses of this energy. You need to know the speed and not to look aside, but listen to yourselves and to understand that if you need a stop in the kilometer, you can have this right. And we need to be sensitive to ourselves. We need to plan those resources, and then you can create our own plans. We don't have universal resources, but we can search for them. We can search for them in the values I was mentioning above, what I believe in, what supports me. If I'm a believer, the prayer can support me. If I know how to meditate, this thing can support me. In the faith and values, when there is lots of things. Now, I listened yesterday a wonderful conversation, the memoirs of a dissident, and it was the source of inspiration for me, because it showed me the strength of the person who lived through the punishment, that he was sent away for being a Ukrainian, and it gave me senses, the inspiration and energy. And secondly, we can search for resources about my emotions. We're saying what we are feeling, lots of emotions. We need to give this space and to liberate ourselves there. We can do that expressively. What is expressive? We can sing, we can dance. Let us sing in the shower at least, to the full throttle, or to draw. No, really, lots of people. Let's come back again to the Oscars awards. Everybody is getting Oscar award as a shampoo, standing under the shower and saying, "Thank you, mother, thank you, father." Why not? It's okay. This is the emotion, our reflection of emotion, expression. We can write the diary, the pages about the expression of our thoughts and feelings. We can get with our relatives and share our emotions. The psychotherapists, as we are trained during supervisions, they emerged not that long ago, but during the history of mankind, people recovered and were helping each other. They were getting to some parties closer to the fireplace and telling stories about themselves, telling the stories. And this is how we can search for our own resources. Another thing, we need to remember a very simple thing, but it's really valuable, and what we are forgetting, that is about our physiological needs. All of those senses and genius ideas are born in this physiological body. If you don't feed it, if you don't sleep, if you don't walk, it won't work. So when a person is coming to me, I can see that what we can do first, we're not getting into senses. We're not getting into traumas. We are getting into the behavioral activation. We are planning the list of useful activities. If you are spending an hour for a walk, then we can see the level of cortisol, the hormone of stress, is decreasing for about 30%. So what you need to do to go for a walk, to feed your body, and when the body has to sleep, it needs to sleep even more to process this experience. That is about physiology. The third are your resources are also in your thoughts. My cognitive sphere is the source of the resource or of the exhaustion. And very often our thoughts are going along the scenario. The anxiety, what will happen, the doubts, am I doing that right, and so on. So we need to be wise about our ideas and thoughts. The depression, I'm sucking, and the people are so genius around me. Yes, so we have, as a creative people, we have only two options. I am shit, I am genius. I am shit, I am genius. Well, I am sorry for the word genius, but it's true. It's a seesaw. Well, yes, sometimes the psychologists have the same. This is such a nice session. I'm a genius psychologist. But sometimes the session was so bad that I'm leaving the profession. So all of those are our thoughts and ideas. Sometimes the people say that I totally suck, but it's not about feelings. You can be sad about it. It's just your idea. I'm nothing. I suck. It's just your thought. Then we need to train ourselves and to look what is in my mind, what's in my thoughts. So we are inviting the people to have 3 baskets. And then you look through your thoughts from the perspective whether what I think now is realistic and objective, whether it's realistic and objective that I totally suck. Are there any proofs and evidence that I suck? Oh, proofs, evidence. So you say, yes, I suck because this and that. But there are some proofs of the contrary, right? So we're looking whether those thoughts can be useful. Okay, I can think it, but can it lead to something good? Can it be of any use? For instance, whether those anxious thoughts will make me check the presentation for it not to have any errors, then it will be useful. But if I'm not sleeping and I'm thinking 24/7 about that, it won't be useful. It will be harmful. Whether it's useful, whether it's objective and truthful, it can lead me to some wise action. You can see I'm worrying whether the presentation is of high quality, then I check it. When I'm thinking of something bad, I can get to Sasha and she tells me, oh, what's her feedback. And the second basket, if I understand what I'm thinking about, and those thoughts are not useful, they are leading me into the wrong direction, whether they are realistic, because I totally suck, it's not objective, of course. So we need to transform it into the more truthful and objective ones. Yes, maybe I really fucked up, but still, I understand why, but it doesn't mean that I'm totally unreliable, because I have something to rely upon. So we can transform those thoughts which are not useful and not realistic, we transform them into the useful and realistic, which will lead to useful action. And sometimes we look at our thoughts that they cannot be reasonable. For instance, when I go to bed and I need to sleep because my brain needs to sleep, it needs to get rid of tension, and just to think and sleep without the sleep whether I suck, whether I'm nothing, it's not serious, it's not reasonable, because your task is to sleep, to restore. So let us look one by one. First we sleep, and then we make ourselves despisable. So this is the invitation for the people to imagine that some part of me invites me to... I like this metaphor, that for instance you took the wrong tram or the wrong underground line. Yes, totally. When I was born, I took the wrong tram. No, I'm joking, of course. Yes, it's true. It was, by the way, recently. So what's important? We needed to cope with this situation. What did you do? Well, first I need to understand that I'm going to the wrong direction. When you understand that you're going in the wrong direction, you should, what do you say? You should say, I'm leaving the vehicle and you're going to the right direction. So the same is with our thoughts and ideas. Sometimes our brain is leading us to the tram where we can hear that I'm too slow, I'm too awkward, and so on. Whether this road leads me to the right direction, and if it's leading me to the wrong direction, if it's not my tram, not my underground, can I leave it? Yes, I can, if I acknowledge that. So, when we are speaking about the cognitive part of our resources, we can take care whether we took the right tram in our internal dialogues. You know what's also cool? When you are going in the wrong tram, you can say that to the tram, hey, change your direction. You give your own rights for your life to the tram driver. But he has his own map. He has his own route. So he is just doing his job. He is going in the right direction for himself. and you just mixed it up. You were confused. But it doesn't mean that the whole world is stopping. Not you who is stopping. You're not asking for a stop. But you say, stop the world. We are going to the wrong direction. Make the turn. This is not okay, as far as I understand. It's true. We are taking care about our own trams. And the third basket where we can find resources. One more point. The same we are having in the minds when we are sorting out the ideas, what's realistic, what's useful, what's helping, whether it's reasonable. It's also important to have the handful of nice thoughts and ideas, which can be kind of the lights in our minds. When I'm really feeling bad, when I'm full of apathy, I can get a very short thought and idea which gives me strength. For instance, when, as my client said, in such cases I say, I'm getting through such a bad-ass thing that I will cope with anything. This was a kind of the beacon for me, which she turns on to get out of the darkness. Turn on the beacon. So it's important for us to have the list of helping thoughts. What's also important as a source of the resource is the relations with other people. To invest into the relations, to speak about the relations. Do we have time? Well, by the way, in 5 minutes, we need to finalize the meeting because there are no questions. So I think that there are no questions, not because people don't know what to ask about, but because everybody has the process of, well, in fact, processing of what they heard and where they're trying to feel whether they're going through the right tram. So it's a very good thing. I'm perceiving that positively because the people need to acknowledge, to recognize. Lots of people can be devoured with their own thoughts and ideas and worries and to think about the values. What values I have? And the person is already working on himself or herself. Maybe that's why we don't have questions. That is really witnessing that this is the cognitive restructuring. When we say that we won't interpret that in the way that it was the mess for us and people are thinking, what was that about? That we said something that people are thinking about themselves. They are thinking whether it's useful or not. So let's sum it up and conclude for us to have a certain structure. What's important for us to remember about? First, what kind of person I'm choosing to be, what type of life I'd like to live through, what type of colleague, mother, person I'd like to be for the world to get something from me. And those will be my values, my senses. I will have the answer about my senses. What else I should take care about? I will remind about that when everything around me will be so dark that I won't see it. How can I remind myself about those values? The second message, what's important for me today, we need to be honest with ourselves, attentive, and listen to our own states and emotions. That yes, I can be angry, I can be in despair, I can be anxious, in apathy, or maybe joyful, and those states and emotions are totally okay with me. The next question is, how do I choose to treat them? How do I select to treat them? In the wise way or not? And then the third one, what we are saying, that now we need to be conscious and competent in the energy management. That we need to have the resource for the wise action. We need to act wisely. And then we say what the competency is in the energy management. We need to look whether I need to minimize the losses in vain. If I'm out of fuel, I shouldn't turn on the AC. Maybe I should open the window to minimize the losses of energy in vain. I need to mitigate that. Secondly, I need to listen to myself and to find my tempo, not how my neighbor does it, not how my colleague does that, but my own speed, because then it can be a long distance run. I can be quick as anybody else, and then I die on the way. But if I find my own way, then the third point, to have the task. That the task for you is to be the kind of the person who is gathering the resources. You need to plan it in your to-do list as well as you do that in your tasks. So this is the resource which can be from different spheres, from some of the cognitive part of yours. I'm taking care about my thoughts and ideas. I'm taking care about my relationship with my relatives and colleagues. I'm taking care about my physical body because it needs as well some of the senses. I'm wise about my emotions. I'm letting them go out and feel, and my creativity is not only just the creativity for the work, but what I really enjoy, what makes you happy and is your resource. Okay, we're out of time because now we need to leave already. And we are saying, everybody, thank you so much. Halyna, that was just cool. I really got huge enjoyment and fun. I hope that our viewers got that as well. And the answers for huge, serious, substantial, or little but anxious questions, which you really got. Of course, you can write down some of the questions, maybe for the webpage of Halyna or to me, and maybe we will go on with these conversations, but it's because it's so important to mention so many topics, whether I'm okay, whether I'm not fine, or how we can get to know how to be happy, how to cope. So again, I remind you, this is the Festival of the LINOLEUM. Thank you to Projector. Look to watch 244 films and register for the lectures. Thank you so much, Halyna, for this meeting. And everybody have a nice, calm and quiet night. Take care about yourselves. Refill your forces because we need to prevail. Thank you. Goodbye.